Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Work With Me stream. It is I, the DeFi professor. Uh, Man, just got some crazy news. Just sending from a friend of mine, just sending some really, really positive healing energy to my friend, and everything going on with what's going on with them in the background. Life is precious, guys. Man, that's crazy. Um, Man, so sorry, guys. It just sometimes you hear things and it just kind of hits you like a truck, right? So with everything else going on, man, it's a rough week. But through the power of positive thinking, for some of you, you like to do prayer. Um, yeah, just you never know the power of just positive thoughts and energies. So sending positive thoughts and energy to all of you out there. Hopefully you had a great weekend. And I'm just gonna use this time to just kind of go through my thoughts on some things, looking through the news from the weekend, getting things ready for the week. Um, yeah. Anyway, just getting the word out on just getting the word out on our spots that we're actually live. So I guess we can start with clarity. Let's start with clarity, right? That's probably the easiest thing to start with. Uh, I don't know what's going to happen with clarity at this point. Uh, Seeing some things on the timeline that worry me, right? There's word that now Republicans don't are hoping that the Democrats don't vote for this so they can blame them for all of this. It's just not. It's getting sloppy. Right? Not that congressional politics is not sloppy. There's always been mudslinging. But what I can say is that the stakes have never been higher, I think, regardless of whether we're talking about the Clarity Act, geopolitical things, affordability. There's just such a scary level of divisiveness. Uh, I'm just speaking to this personally. I worry every day that a civil war is going to break out in this country, due to the things about having just gun ownership, just the atrocities. I mean, we saw someone literally on video go and kill two people with an assault rifle and sitting inside of a Tesla outside of In-N-Out in Idaho, that was crazy to see. I didn't know this. Apparently, when the car is plugged in at a supercharger, the car is there's no way to get the car to move. While it's charging, it will not respond to any requests to move the car forward. Obviously, that's by design, right? Because it's in a charging state. But those two people couldn't leave because of that. Um, Again, we don't know. I didn't really look into it, unfortunately. I don't know much about it, but it's just sad. The cold card thing, super sad as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let me pull up my research browser so we can kind of talk a little bit about clarity. Let me get the latest clarity news that I have here. Wow, that's that's crazy. I went to go pull up a Twitter tab that I already had open to kind of look up the scoop, and oddly enough, this is what came up. Yeah, Granted, this is no different than a fundraising luncheon, right? I mean, that's exactly what it is. Again, it's just the optics of how this looks. Now, Senator Cynthia Lummis came out and said that, obviously just talking again about the fact that President Trump will have to divest all of his crypto and put into a blind trust. It's already there, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, he's always going to have done that. This is crazy. Let me get back to Eleanor Tourette. There she is. I don't think we're going to have a floor vote today. According to what I saw yesterday, the calendar for the Senate floor day did not include a vote for the Clarity Act. So, yeah, that's all I have so far. Just more of this. So, at this point, I don't know if there's going to be a vote on the floor this week. What I will say is, shout out to Stand With Crypto. They were in attendance at Rare Evo last week. And what they ended up doing, I don't see it here, but there it is. They actually had a booth where you could actually call your senator, and they had pictures of people who did that live at the event, which is great. It's great. Ultimately, this is for codified foundation for how crypto, stables, coins, and digital assets should be treated on both sides, both the retail side, the institutional, and the merchant side, the business side, for all of this. And it involves protections for DeFi developers and entities. It covers institutional and law enforcement education, which I am in favor of because, as you know, I'm a huge proponent of education and onboarding and make sure everybody understands the right way to do this safely and securely. And that's the key. So, let's see. So they, one thing too, and I shout out to everybody who did this. There was, they had a call for everyday people who wanted to record a video specifically about why they use crypto and digital assets and wanting the Senate to pass the Clarity Act. So one thing that's been great about Stand With Crypto is that they've had a direct line to multiple congressional staff as well as actual elected representatives of Congress to talk to them about passing the Clarity Act. Some are going to be a no regardless because of whatever reason. But I do think if it can make it to the floor, there's a pretty good chance that it actually goes. So there's 4 days left. And the list keeps growing apparently. Coinbase is now on there. Ripple and Strategy, of course. A16Z has always been on there. Solana Institute. Interesting. Didn't know they had a policy institute. Chainlink, Grayscale. Ultimately, if this gets to the floor, it's most likely going to pass. I think they haven't been talking about it, but as long as that ethics provision is in there, at least at that foundation that was put out initially, I do think there's enough momentum, I guess would be the word that I would use, for it to continue to move forward. And we'll see. I mean, the hope is that it will, but there's no guarantees, right? But that's what we have on Clarity right now. Looking at the articles that we have. We can talk about some of this stuff, and we should see more stuff that happens about, yep. So, this is the tough part. 18 and a quarter Bitcoin have now been swept from wallets that use Cold Card, which is a hardware wallet that look kind of like a calculator. I personally have never used one. I have never recommended one to anybody. Most people I know have never used a Cold Card. They use other types of wallets. Cold Card, I believe, was specifically a Bitcoin specific wallet. Not that it matters if you use one. It mattered that you did use one. And apparently it was based off the old Trezor code I was reading earlier with Mark 1 and Mark 2, the ones that aren't affected. When they decided to start messing, enhancing that code to their usage points, apparently they stepped away from using a good, true random number generator, which is what causes, if you hear these things about dice rolls, that's what a random number generator does. It just generates numbers randomly, right? To create what's called that entropy that helps with the cryptography and keeping it safe and unique. Apparently that was not the case, and they were able to generate keys that was able to go and just sweep wallets, which is sadly the biggest news from the weekend. This one's tough because, one thing that we do is we preach operational security, doing the right thing to keep your money safe. There's been a lot of people who have spoken out and saying, self-custody is just not something that you can do correctly with all the technology that's out there right now. You're better off just buying a Bitcoin ETF. And I I have some thoughts on that. Ultimately, the whole point of Bitcoin and the quote-unquote Satoshi's vision, right, was an alternative to the current financial system, a anti-fragile, censorship-resistant piece of tender that could be used as a store of value, that you could self-custody in a time where a lot of the world economies are facing a lot of issues. Personally, you have counterparty risk, right? With regards to ETFs, especially the kind that let you redeem in kind, which I think is just IBIT. Either way, you still have to pay taxes on stuff like that. Not saying that you shouldn't pay taxes on Bitcoin that you custody, but that's what most people are looking to do. Now, with that said, Bitcoin's role in decentralized finance is kind of interesting because Bitcoin is not a DeFi asset. Natively, it's you don't have Bitcoin available. Now, there are derivative assets, like if we just go with the closest, which is Stacks, which is the Bitcoin layer 2, that actually writes to the Bitcoin blockchain in their bunches and anchors infrastructure. SBTC is a derivative of BTC, but it's not holding it directly, right? You actually park your BTC in their custody, and then they give you the SBTC that you can use to then use without the ecosystem as collateral. You can even use it as a way to farm inside of liquidity positions and stuff like that. Is that the way that should be done? I mean, there are people who want it to happen, right? I still think Bitcoin is a good store of value. Is it good to be able to find passive ways to use that to generate more income? Yes, of course, because, and this is something that, I was well reminded of over the weekend. If you just hold cash, right, you don't earn anything from that. The value of cash stays at $1. It actually loses value because of inflation, because of money printing. things like that. And that's the case for most fiat currencies, right? Because we abandoned the gold standard back in 1971 under Nixon. There are a lot of different ways to use it. I mean, I guess to find value in money. What most people do once they get money, they invest it, right? Most people don't hold. I mean, you can hold cash, of course, but you're going to put it into investment vehicles to get it to work for you. That's the whole point of decentralized finance, in my opinion, is to find a better risk-adjusted return for having your money work for you in a passive way. Regardless of what that vehicle is, whether it's buying NFTs, liquidity positions, concentrated liquidity, perp indexes, all of that. I mean, just regular AMM lending, stuff like that, where you earn 5% for supplying X and Y asset, right? There's a lot of people that are going to sit out there today and just tell you that you're better off just putting your money in a bank. And for some people, that's the answer. Why? Because they don't believe in self-custody. I believe in self-custody. I believe that we should be able to have the freedom to custody our own funds in a way that benefits us. And that's why digital assets are important. I take no joy in seeing all the people who have lost, hard-earned savings. There's nothing I can say to make them feel better about it, honestly. Me telling people I don't really know CoinKite. I never really talked about cold card wallets because, I think that you should have a diversified portfolio, not have all your money in one asset. There's a whole lot of people. I mean, I understand they're Bitcoin maxis, they're ETH maxis. I think you should have a well-balanced, diverse portfolio because you shouldn't be in a situation where you are over-invested and now you've lost your entire digital asset savings because you did not want to diversify into other assets, regardless of their price, regardless of their value or the method that you earn into that type of stuff, right? And I still feel that way. Banking is never going to go away. People are always going to want to store money into an institution because they feel that's the best way to manage their money. Banks are going to die. The way that we see banks today probably won't be the same way we see banks in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years. Who knows? There could be like a galactic universal bank like you see in sci-fi movies, and everything goes into quote unquote credits. And you don't actually own any money. It's just credits against a balance that they deem that you have, and you can spend it as needed. That sounds dystopian, but honestly, we're not that far away from that, guys. We really aren't. Self-custody is going to need a self-hosting revolution in order for this to become a thing, right? We're going to need more businesses recognizing people who self-custody their money and accept, that type of payment as tender. We're seeing that in El Salvador. We're seeing that in Switzerland. Well, here in the United States, you've always been able to pay for your taxes in the state of Colorado using Bitcoin. Or I think it's just Bitcoin. But they have a way for you to pay your taxes that way. I don't think anyone wants to pay their taxes with Bitcoin. That's just me. Most people that are affected by this, honestly, a lot of these older wallets, they're just people who just literally were just popping in money and leaving it there for years. It's sad, right? We can only hope this is a huge white hat operation and that money is coming back in some way, but I don't think it is, honestly. So the only thing I can really say is self-custody is still important. It's still a freedom that you deserve. Current SEC Chair Paul Atkins believes it's part of the American DNA for self-custody, for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that you should be having a diversified portfolio of assets that you go into. That's really the only thing I can really say. Keeping it safe and secure, there are multiple ways to do so. Again, I'd never recommended a cold card to anybody. I never really saw a whole lot of their product, if I'm being honest. I really just go with, you know, I like Trezor because it's quote unquote open source. Ledger, for all their faults, has a good product. How good? We'll see. There are people who are like, use a smartphone with dice rolls, and I think that's a little extreme. But yeah, the hard part is we don't know what's going to happen next. But it's it's hard to see people losing a lot of their hard-earned money this way. All right. Obviously, we'll talk more about it as more things happen. But I know that the founder of Cold Card was like, we'll do what we can to earn back your trust. I'm like, no, bro, you're done. Don't ever make a product like this ever again, because no one's ever gonna trust you. Why would they after everything that's happened? So it's a tough hand to be dealt, and I just hope for the good fortune of those who are affected by this. That's really all you can do. So, well, looks like this is going to be a sometime next month. They're going to have a big SEC summit on tokenizing everything, and I think we'll see some steps in that direction on what they're going to do. Interesting. American Bitcoin president Matt Prusak departs for Giga Energy, leaving that business. Well, this is cool. Kenya moves 30 million academic credentials onto the Avalanche blockchain. And see, this is the cool part about blockchain technology, is that having things like ZK proofs, zero knowledge proofs, things like credential certificates that are immutable, meaning once that they're there, you can't touch them, to be able to offer that as a global service to everyone, I think is going to be very important, specifically for academic records. Now, does this dilute or weigh down the value of like a Harvard degree or a Princeton or a Yale degree? No. Frankly, I can tell you this as a university level professor. All that those degrees come with is just a level of networking that some of the smaller institutions don't have. I have an MBA. Should it matter where I got it? No, because the credentials at the majority of the licensed and certified universities all have met a level that is heavily audited, and most of their degree programs are under multi-year scrutiny at all times. So my MBA from my smaller university shouldn't matter, shouldn't be any different than someone who got an MBA at Wharton, Stanford, Michigan, Iowa State, TCU, University of the American University in Paris. Should all be fairly similar. Obviously, there's some regional things that make some of those things different, but from a fundamental logic perspective, it shouldn't matter. So this is great. I love seeing blockchain technology being used in this way, because it's an undisputable, unmanipulable mostly unmanipulatable ledger with smart contracts for settling transactions of any kind. And that's how it should be looked at, in my opinion. So this is great. Congrats to Kenya for doing this. I hope that there are more of these that happen. Shout out to the Avalanche blockchain for giving them the ability to do this. I'm assuming that this is either going to be a subnet or something possibly used on maybe the platform chain, probably the C chain, but we'll see. I would think I think the platform chain would probably be the better spot for something like this. You don't necessarily need C chain for that. There's so many things that can be done on the different chains that Avalanche has. So there's that. But that's very cool. I love seeing things like this. Other big news, Strategy is selling Bitcoin. 105 millions. So the reason why they're doing this, guys, it's not because they think Bitcoin's going to zero. It's because this is the new model for Strategy. STRC. There's a bunch of DeFi protocols that are already built on top of STRC. So to keep that model viable, to keep it from getting stale, they're going to have to do some buybacks here and there to increase the value, keep the dividends flowing. They'll continue to buy Bitcoin, but they're also going to be selling Bitcoin at times too. So does this change anything? No, not really. Market doesn't seem to think it's any different. I mean, let's look at the market right now. 63.8? Yeah. So you're telling me that Saylor sells 100 million worth of Bitcoin and the market doesn't really move? In fact, people are kind of buying? Yeah. I mean, you could also joke that Jim Cramer said that Bitcoin is going to zero and everyone's selling their Bitcoin. So if you inverse bra that, we could be in for a good week. It all really depends. Ethereum's still outperforming, or at least on par with Bitcoin. So that's also good to see. We'll see how this rolls out for the rest of the market. Bitcoin's still the tide that raises and sinks ships. So we'll see where this all kind of leads. Japan is still going to be the linchpin here, in my opinion. And I never thought that was going to be the case. But we'll see what happens here. Morgan Stanley downgrades Circle, but Circle and Coinbase have renewed their partnership for USDC on the same terms. So Coinbase is still firmly in control. I guess is the best way to describe it. USDC is not going anywhere. I mean, they're hitting more and more transactional all-time highs, right? If Tether is like the quietest stablecoin out there, then USDC is easily the loudest, and it's going to continue to get bigger. USDG is starting to make some inroads. USDE. We'll see exactly where all this kind of continues to move. But are we on the way to seeing a $2 trillion market cap for stablecoins? Yeah, we might be. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get there, right? As more adoption happens. If Clarity passes, there's just going to be a lot more stablecoins in circulation to help bolster that. And that's really what you want. You want to see stablecoins being used as a main thoroughfare of commerce on this planet. That's the goal, right? Granted, USDC is a centralized stablecoin, but hopefully once that becomes, dare I say, the norm, then competition can come up, decentralized, that can make a case. And that's really what we need. But currently right now, the dollar is just the world reserve currency. Will USDC become the world reserve currency? That's a different argument. Uh, but I can't see, in a world that's become more digital, especially in a world where money can be settled within milliseconds, why it can't be the case. Now you can do all the conspiracy talk you want. That the U.S. wanting to reposition all of their debt by repricing or using digital assets to do it. Oddly enough, that would be a hallmark of the Trump legacy in the presidency if he's able to do it. And with his business acumen, whether or not you like him or not, he is a businessman. He's been running America like a business. If there's one thing him and Scott Bessent could do, it would be to refinance all of the U.S. debt in digital currency. If that hasn't been painfully obvious from the beginning, and even Putin said it, right? That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. And Circle is going to be a big part of that, especially if USDC continues. Now, I don't know if USD1, which is the World Liberty financial currency, will ever be there because, let's face it, that's an ethics problem beyond everything. For the Trump protocol to become the world reserve currency, that's not an ethics problem. Of course, that's an ethics problem. That's never going to happen. Oh, that's not good. XRPL issues. Robinhood secures a UK crypto license but faces stiff competition. Not really sure exactly what that means, because does the UK have any stiff competition when it comes to crypto? No, because for the most part they've poo-pooed it, right? They'd rather have a CBDC. You can do research into the BIS specifically on the pilots they've done for that. Clarity Act failure could send crypto valuations. That's not news. Again. I can't believe it. So this is the reason why lottery miners are a thing. And what this means is, so these small little, like a bit axe, for example, right? Let's go find one. And shout out to the guys at BitAxe. Very nice team. They were fine. BitAxe. I'm not behind a VPN, fools. Bitaxe.org. There we go. So these guys sell these miners at a bunch of different places. Let's go here. You can find these on Amazon. They cost a couple $100. They have okay. Yeah, these things are tiny. They literally just sit on 3D printed chassis, and they just sit there and give you some nice heating in the wintertime. That's actually not terrible at all. My God, 6 terahashes per second for 344. That is insane. For 344 to get 6 terahashes per, that might be the buy. That might be the move. The reason I say that is because it's kind of a fool's errand to try and mine a block of Bitcoin by yourself to win the reward. But guess what? Ever since these things have come into solo mining pools, it's been hit more than 6 times. There's been more than 6 instances in the last year, even, of solo miners actually winning blocks. which should be something you should have you should have a better chance of being struck by lightning in the desert at night than than to actually mine and get rewarded with a full reward for Bitcoin. And it's happened multiple times. So that's why these these miners are being called quote unquote lottery miners, because they're winning somehow. I have no idea how they're winning, but they're winning. So a lot of people are buying things like this. Something to consider if you're looking to get into mining is to figuring out if you can get yourself a solo miner. Now, is it going to be, none of this is financial advice, of course. So I'm just like, just plug it in. You go. It's literally pick your miner, plug it in, sit back and earn. Now, I would recommend you have both a solo miner and a shared pool miner. So you're helping other pools win and you get pieces of that. The ROI on these, obviously, pretty good if you actually hit one. Granted, do most people hit one? No. But it's happened more than 6 times in the last 18 months, 12 to 18 months. And we've talked about it on our podcasts. For most people, that's enough of an incentive to just try one and see if it works. People in our community, I know someone in our community that has 5 of these because she was convinced that there's a chance it could actually happen. I would say to definitely get into shared pool mining though, because you definitely want that just in case, as a good backup. But wow, to see that it's happened again, kind of crazy. All right, what else we got here? Whew. You have to bear with me, guys. I'm a little dizzy. Unfortunately, everybody in my house is sick, so I don't believe that I'm sick, but I've had some dizzy spells and whatnot. Interesting. Ripple invests in Xylo, and Leucido. And frankly, this is going to be the direction that I think Ripple continues to go. They want to figure out a way to try and be there for institutions. I think that kind of sucks for XRP holders, but $368 million in tokenized RWAs, really? Well, they need to get on getting builders into the system properly and actually getting them to take advantage of this. Because Robinhood is just eating everybody's lunch right now with RWAs. They're gonna get there quick to be the leader, in my opinion. They're doing everything right. They've got the trenches open, so people are excited to be there. This reminds me of Base in 2023. Does that mean that Base is getting chunked by the wayside? No, of course not. Coinbase has 100 million users. They're not going anywhere. In fact, Base is just going to be more strengthened in their resolve to continue to serve their base, no pun intended, with that. Bitcoin may find bear market bottom. Again, as the title would suggest, we're in a gully. We've been in a crypto winter for a while, guys. I mean, to be fair, we were in a bull for more than 1,000 days, based on what we called it. And there is no such thing as a 4-year cycle anymore. So we'll see exactly how this plays out. But there's certainly a lot more international attention on Bitcoin and all of the blockchains that surround it, hoping that Bitcoin one day becomes a DeFi asset, which it most likely never will. It's funny. You go to places like Bitcoin Vegas and you see all these people who are Bitcoin maximalists. They have no desire to spend their Bitcoin, guys. They just want to keep accumulating. They don't want to use it in DeFi. Most of them don't. Some do. Some people are like, oh yeah, that's sweet. You can spend it at Steak and Shake in some places. But no one really wants to spend their Bitcoin in such a way. They just want it to be a store of value, just like gold, right? Difference is that Bitcoin is much easier to custody as well as let's not call it insure, but check for authenticity, right? Because that gold is yes, it's a store of value. But imagine trying to custody it in a safe, get it appraised, uh, make sure it's authentic, and then if you ever need to liquidate it, good luck with that. All of that is a process that takes a lot of time. Whereas with Bitcoin, it can happen instantaneously. Sadly, through cold card. Grok predicts Bitcoin will blow its past old record by the end of 2027. Sure. Japan just made it insanely easy to get a free XRP with a credit card. Won't matter if you can't use it. Won't matter if Ripple holds the majority of it. Minnesota crypto ATM ban goes into effect after a report. Okay, so I've never used one of these machines. I feel sorry for anyone who falls for this, if I'm being very honest. Don't use these things. The fees are disgusting. It makes no sense. And you have to worry about, not only is it a taxable thing, but now you have to worry about fiat currency conversion. I see no positive reason to actually use a crypto ATM with your Bitcoin. Mining difficulty shrinks. Oh, they're using the same image as last time. Great. Yeah, so this was interesting. Bank of Italy research suggests stablecoins aren't necessarily cheaper for remittances. That is true. And the reason for this is the fiat currency off ramp, right? That's where the last mile problem is going to be a problem regardless. That's why using things like stablecoins and quote unquote on chain banks or, flows that allow you to spend your money on chain is a better option than, specifically remitting it, right? Because you can go to, there are multiple cards that you can use that spend a USDC or other stablecoin balance for you. There's even cash back options from multiple companies. So I think they did like 10 different services, 10 different stablecoins. And the issue wasn't the sending of the money. That was instant. That was great. That was cross border. That's what they wanted. It was the actual fees that every broker to off ramp charged to convert it from, stablecoin to, I guess, Italian lira at this case, was just ridiculous. Now remember, Italy's in the EU. And EU has MiCA. And use a crypto card, in my opinion. That's obviously not financial advice, but it's like if you're gonna house your money on chain, you're better off using even a CEX at this point, right? Because you can take you can take a stable coin, convert it to USDC, send it to Coinbase, and then it's treated like cash, and then use your Coinbase Visa, which I don't have right here, with Google Pay, with Apple Pay to pay for services. I did that all the time. I took my family to Vancouver for the first time for an international family vacation. Yeah, using my Coinbase Visa everywhere was so easy, and it did the conversion to Canadian dollars and all of that, and it was very affordable and very inexpensive. It was very nice. It was very fluid. 3IQ Corp named the institutional manager of Bhutan's Bitcoin reserves, the happiest country on the planet, by the way, and also holders of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And they're building their GMC. Is that what it's called? The Mindful City. They're building a city that's larger, that's digital focused, that's larger than the country of Singapore. And I'm very curious to see how this looks. That is a serious statement. Audited did not mean covered. This is a problem, right? And I talked about this in a lot of my content in the quote unquote age of Mythos, when Mythos came out and just was, and April was terrible for this industry because everything was getting breached left and right through those type of exploits. It really put into question some of these older companies like Trail of Bits, Certic, Halborn, all of these big companies that have done audits on a lot of these protocols. How is it that let's not call it simple, an LLM can just go through and outdo years of work? Now, there's two sides to this story because cybersecurity in Web3 is a very lucrative business. I can tell you that because it is not cheap to get an audit from most of these companies these days. We're talking high five, six figures now, which honestly, gross. To get outdone by an LLM trained script and charging that much. The worst part is that most groups, they'll make upgrades to smart contracts, redeploy them, probably don't get audited. They're just because it's just so expensive. It's a negative EV play to get every single thing that you do re-audited. And that's kind of the problem. Security, education, they're not accessible. It's exhausting. Honestly, it's exhausting. Yeah, I mean, I think this slide just says it, right? And granted, we have some insurance companies like Nexus, InsureAce, there's a couple others that are out there for protocols. I don't love their process either, if I'm being honest. A lot of them are DAO based and they have to go listen to claims all the time and they vote on whether or not to cover something. Is insurance the way to go about it? I don't know either. There's no, the capitalist nature of this is hard, right? Because auditing is not a public good. I wish it could be, guys, but it's not. It's a lucrative business. And now with the power of Mythos and Mythos Class, maybe it becomes an even bigger premium because they're like, we're using top of the line tools that can't be outdone by Mythos Class models. Until the next break happens. What do you do then? Right? God, so much. It's just ridiculous. And North Korea is at the center of it. How is it that they're so good at this? Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Who remembers YGG play? I certainly do. Pivoting to AI data. That's an interesting move. We're seeing pivots all over the place. Obviously, there's some gaps, and there are people who are wanting to, fill those gaps and move and do things. These are just things that happen. Um, but yeah, some interesting pivots I've seen in the last 8 months. I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting pivot. But it's mainly because there was nobody there and they thought they could make a big splash. And for to their credit, they're doing okay. Well, hmm, this one's tough too. For a lot of people, this will be way over their heads. Uh, that's a lot of assets that have bad backing due to unbacked float accumulated through chain link price feed latency. And this is why groups like Pith, Redstone, and others exist, right? Because you can't just have one off-chain oracle, which Chainlink is by far the largest, right? While they have receipts, this is crazy. Oh, this is not good for Chainlink at all. Interesting. I see that they're not actually saying, they're not quoting anybody on this. Swapping's paused. Fees on all synth pairs have been raised high enough to keep the volume minimal, well, until an architecture upgrade is complete, and they can charge different fees in each direction to defend against one-sided flow. This is interesting. I wish the Metronode team a lot of luck. I know them. Not intimately, but I do know them. Quite a few people on that team, and I hope they can overcome all of this. 31% is a big hole. And this is what's the tough part about synthetics, right? Anything that's a synth, whether it's a perp, whether it's even something like SBTC that we talked about at the top of the show. These are difficult. And sometimes finding ways to, let's just call it, make money appear out of thin air, which is not, that's not exactly what this is, but with derivatives, you're hoping that the exposure that you get on these plays is enough to continue speculation into better forms of return, right? Because that's the one thing. It's like you can either hold cash and it earns nothing, or you can actually put it into the system and invest, and it starts to work for you, earn returns. That's the difference between people who hold cash and investors, people who are growing their stack continuously. And that's probably the one thing that people need to remember. It's like holding cash is great, but it's only just going to get devalued over time, especially in the way that our economy works. You need to be putting your money into assets that continuously work for you, whether that be dividends, whether that be mutual funds, whether that be anything on the blockchain. There's a variety of different ways to do it. You should have a diversified portfolio. Do it again, not financial advice. Do your own research. But you don't want to be in a situation where, let's just use the term, you were tits long into crypto and then suddenly something happens and all your crypto is gone. What do you do then? You shake your fist and say, I did the right thing? No, you overinvested in one thing, guys. Yes, this is the future of finance, the future of the way we're doing business, but you got to diversify, guys. You can fight to live another day if you diversify, regardless of what it is. I don't care if you put your money in a nonprofit, into equity or something like that, and you help lemonade stands get off the ground. Whatever. You just can't have all your money in one thing. Regardless if you have 5 million or $5. You got to break that up, guys. Interesting. Inside Uniswap's land grab on the Robinhood chain. What I will say, guys, if you're looking to trade tokenized stocks, hot as hell on Uniswap right now. I will tell you that. They have one thing we say in all of our content is that volume equals yield, and Robinhood Lighter has volume. You can profit off the behavior of other investors. And again, I don't know how true this is, but this is gross. Pump.fund laid off 40 workers, if I remember correctly, before they received millions in pump tokens. The reason being the company growing too quickly. Bro. That's just gross. You have all these people helping you out and you lay them off before you give them token equity. I don't understand the whole point of that at all. I'm sure people will come back and come at me and defend it, but I'm just like, it's just morally, I'm not that kind of guy. And maybe that's the reason why I'm not, a gazillionaire, because I'm too nice. I couldn't do that to somebody. We can all win together. There's enough seats at the table. We can all eat. And that's the way I've always looked at this. All right, we're 3 days in, so there's not a whole lot left to really look at, because we talked about Cold Card. We talked about quite a bit of other stuff. Tether earns 1.5 billion in Q2. Now, again, the reason why I think Genius and Clarity are even on the table is because of Tether's profitability. Everybody wants to get what Tether's got. Tether did lose, from what I was reading, $4 billion in the last quarter. A lot of it happens to probably be due to the price of Bitcoin and gold. Their assets, they have a lot of backing there. Their asset just devalued. And that makes sense. But still, for them to continue to post quarterly profits in excess of millions, in this case, 1,000 million, is insane. They now have more employees. I think they're over 100 employees now. They used to be less than 30. So they're one of the most profitable companies in the world. But T-bill, T-bills, government debt is still fueling their profits. Oh man. Let's see if there's any Google News here using our Trump media says 165 million Bitcoin transferred to Crypto.com wasn't a sale. Yeah, it probably wasn't. Why are they sending it to a Crypto.com platform though? Nothing against Crypto.com. I saw that Crypto.com was also a principal sponsor for WWE SummerSlam. I just happened to see that on the timeline. I was like, Crypto.com is getting that name recognition, guys. I mean, I still have my Crypto.com account. Are they the best CEX on the planet? Oh, no. They have nice tools. I still have my Crypto.com card. See exactly how this kind of all plays out. FBI agent is accused of stealing cryptocurrency. That's not shocking. We already talked about the blockchain patents. Ben McKenzie's coming after crypto. I can see why he would. Yeah, nothing else here that's interesting. They have 15-minute markets now beyond crypto with gold and silver. That's cool. Having up-down markets for gold and silver, I'm sure they'll get plenty of volume on that. Yeah, we'll see exactly how the next halving works because institutions are here now. We have ETFs and all this kind of stuff. It's changed the cycle forever. We never really had institutions and ETFs and all of this stuff at the last halving in 2020, right? So this is a much different post-halving cycle that we're having. Oh, this is interesting. BitGo launches Link, connecting clients to Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com, and more. I mean, this is just a bridge, but tell me more. Oh, using BitGo custody as centralized. Now that's different. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Ah, institutional clients. Right. So this is still this is walled off, custodied BitGo holdings. Got it. So basically, they found a way to have a room in every single CEX saying, and this is just for our clients. It allows you to be able to go in between all of them, which is fine. You know, I can tell you from my time at Denver this year, at ETH Denver, the big talk was about stablecoins and vaults, but they wanted custody. That's the big thing. When we talk to multiple groups who are representing large institutions, they're fine with decentralized finance. They just want to have control on where the liquidity comes from. For good reason, right? A lot of the stuff we talked about today just doesn't look good, unfortunately. And that's why institutions want the controls. They want to be able to say, yeah, it's coming out of this pool that we can verify has this exact amount. And I know that because we are specifically custodying it or working with a partner that's specifically custodying it in a fairly centralized way. So that's to me, that's how this reads, right? The system also enables users to apply additional permissions controls to determine how funds are used. There we go. There we go. That's what it means. And essentially all that they have is just an easy way to transfer funds between each of these pools. So there's a DeFi version of this, and it's with layer 0. It's called Stargate Hydra. And ultimately, that's how they can easily send money between all of these different pools because they're all theirs. Essentially. And if you want to be in on Hydra, you have to custody a whole bunch of assets that you may not think that you would have had to have done. And that's what makes it easy to get liquidity from point A to point B. Aave's V4 is a bit different in terms of their hub and spoke liquidity, but ultimately, institutions are happy with the idea of decentralized finance. The trustless, permissionless part is the part they have the biggest problem with because they want the controls. This is why Canton Network CC is such a valuable player into this because groups like Goldman, JP Morgan, Microsoft have all been testing on Canton Network for years, by the way. This is not new. Canton Network has been a private layer 1 blockchain for years that they've been testing on to try and see, what can they do? How does it work? What can happen? I'm sure they've done tons of Chaos Monkey simulations and just trying to figure out the right way to go about it. I mean, there are people whose jobs is literally trying to break the system in as many crazy ways as they can and how to get away from that. So, I didn't think I'd be spending any time today talking about miners, but here we are. Last week we talked about Framework 13 laptops. This week we're talking about miners. The last thing I'll talk about with you guys, just because it's probably worth talking about, just for people who follow me, and then people are asking all the time, Chris, what do you recommend for hardware? And I like Apple's privacy take. It's not it's the closest consumer wise to what you want, if I'm being honest. That's why I use Apple products. Now, this Apple upgrade plan, this is an interest-free lease with practically no fees. So if you're looking to get a MacBook, I would even say a Mac, not a Mac Mini, but a MacBook Pro. I think the number was for like a base 14-inch MacBook Pro is like $58 a month. This is all backed by Klarna, by the way. So Apple gets the full sale of every product. You're now just dealing with Klarna, and you just have to make your payment. You can't miss more than 3 payments in a row. But you're in a situation where you keep it for 12 or 36 months, whatever the lease program is. At the end of that, you can either pay it off and own it, send it back, trade it in for something different, and you're not paying any extra fees. We've been conditioned as a country to embrace subscriptions, right? Don't believe me? Check out streaming. How many people have a streaming subscription for YouTube TV, for something from Roku, for Hulu, for Netflix? And your streaming bill is now more expensive than your cable bill. The genius level of marketing mastery for that to happen is insane, in my personal opinion. Apple has gone from overpriced, focused ecosystem to having top tier tools that they're looking to make accessible to as many people around the globe as possible. Now, the upgrade program is only open in the United States right now. With Klarna at the backing, I think this is going to move quickly if they decide to choose a different partner internationally or in different countries. But if there's one thing you can say about Apple is that they know how to make a damn good laptop. In fact, everything that I run here is on my MacBook M1 Max. And it's been fantastic. I've loved my experience with it. Are there some things I changed? Yeah, the internal storage sucks, but you can't upgrade it. But for me to pay $38 a month to get potentially a 14-inch MacBook Pro with an M5 and everything that I need that'll be leaps and bounds above what my current experience is. Yeah, I think that's worth it. I'm happy to do whatever I need to do to make an extra $60 a month to afford that. And there's no additional fees. So I'm not shilling Apple upgrade, but I'm just saying if you're looking for access to the best tools, if you're already in a subscription mindset anyway, there's no reason to not consider this. They make the best laptop. Hands down. They really do. Do they lock you into the ecosystem with stuff? Yes. But what I will say is I've found that the majority of products that I use just have a better Apple experience anyway. Why? I don't know. I'll be honest. Why are some things better on iOS or Mac OS than they are, on Android or on whatever other platform? I mean, in my opinion, Mac OS is way better than Windows. And I say that not as a gamer, but as a productivity person. I can certainly appreciate the Windows gaming experience. And in my opinion, Windows runs better in a container anyway. So which you can easily do on a computer like this. So you can always, and of course they still have Boot Camp where you can dual boot with Windows, right? Works great. It really does. Virtual Windows is great, in my opinion. Anyway, I probably will be taking advantage of this the next couple of weeks because I will find a way to make an extra $60 to get a top of a current generation M5 MacBook Pro. The 16, I love the 16. The battery life is great. I would just do it because if I get to trade it in later on for a Mac that has a better battery, like a silicon graphene, oh, I'm sorry, silicon carbon battery for even better life, that would be insane. That would be ultimate right there. The 16's heavy, I will say. And I mean, I have a 15-inch screen here, a portable monitor that's great that I use as a second monitor. I don't hate the idea of getting a MacBook, I'm sorry, a Mac Mini and just traveling with that because they're small and they work just as well. Granted, you don't have the same portability, but you can put a battery on it. I mean, I've seen people put batteries on the side of a Mac Mini all the time. People are 3D printing battery cases for stuff like that. And you can plug in like an Anchor charging bank or something like that that costs like $60 or something like that. That keeps it powered. Like I said, there's a whole rabbit hole on this, but if we talked about things that are interesting from a tech perspective, we talked about miners today, solo mining. Talked about the Framework 13 laptop last week, which is fantastic, by the way. I would say the only other thing that if Framework had a leasing program like this, I mean, I use Linux on everything else here in the studio, so it would be an easy move for me to do that. And I love Framework's the ability to just buy the chassis, buy a new motherboard, and just upgrade everything that you need whenever you need to. So, all right. That's all we got for today. Hopefully you found great value. If you did, please check me out on Twitter. You can also check my creator homepage, which hopefully is still up here. Oh no. Oh no. I'm going to have to talk to the team. That's crazy. Oh no, Flix.fun expired. Well, follow me on Twitter, x.com/csoriano. Or you can find me, the DeFi Professor, on just about every. This is so sad. This is peak. We're in a gully. This is peak crypto winter. Ugh. Yeah, I'm taking a screenshot of this puppy. Shout out to the team at Flix.fun. This is sad. We'll recover, though. We'll come back bigger and better. And that's it. Next time you'll see me, most likely will be on Wednesday for our Total Value Locked podcast, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you can't catch me there, catch us on Friday for the 3 p.m. Beat the Banks podcast. Those are my live streams. You also check me out on On-Chain Media. We're going to have our weekly community call, our X Space, on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, I think. You can check the socials for that. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Have a great day, and we will see you next week. 07.